Well, I will, good faith, try to listen to the entirety of the David B. Nora encounter, but from the large chunks I saw and listened to, and was even in the chat, it's a little curious. So David B. came not to defend DOA, who is his friend and ally. He just wanted clarity with Nora on how there were some flaws, the nicest way of putting it, to the DOA Nora fight that imploded on her channel, where she was just viciously attacking DOA, wanting him to, I guess, apologize or explain, in quotes, for his recent actions. And DOA wasn't interested in doing that, so it was just a big back and forth. So let me begin, to be generous, that I do feel a lot of sympathy with David, who's on the left, and I am also on the left, and just some disillusionment with the activist I'd work with, and the corruption, and seeing that firsthand, and being disappointed. I want to stress, not all. I've seen some good people, know some good people, but people you would think would be generous, not really generous at all, and try to take advantage of you. And I think that's just a dilemma, that there's too much, people personalize things. They expect these people to be heroes, and they're not. They're not. They are very self-interested actors. I just want to get that out of the way. And I just want to note, as far as I know, I've never commented on his family or Audit LA's family. Okay, so niceness out of the way. What to say? Well, I guess Nora's chat and Nora herself was frustrated that David B kept bringing up the chat, kept bringing up these issues, and Nora just didn't want to take responsibility, or said, I'm not really interested in all that. Whatever you did in other movements, I'm concentrating on what I want to focus on, and that's it. And I usually don't get into, frankly, Nora's body too much. I mean, I make some sniping remarks here and there, but her body language was terrible. She just seemed very uninterested, bored, tired, didn't want to be there. So, yeah, I mean, again, everyone will have their own style, but again, if you're going to invite someone as a guest to your channel, I think you want to put in more of an effort. But she just seemed very clocked out, like she was being dragged to do these things. So it's like, okay, well, there you go. And I do think he made a sincere attempt, and he stressed that he will be looking more closely at some of her complaints. But again, she just didn't seem to be interested in hearing him out. Now, again, for his part, the most substance I can gather from this is that there were just things about the nature of DOA's complaints people weren't really addressing. So what do I know for a fact? Well, it's very little, because what sparked a lot of this crisis is Audit LA and Nora went to a protest where this other person, Rib Guy, showed up. And Nora concedes that Rib Guy's behavior seems suspicious or weird or odd, but she just didn't care. She didn't care. So what happened is that Rib Guy essentially confronted DOA's ex-girlfriend. DOA thought that was very revealing, and that Lara, FM, was in danger. It may shock people. I agree more with Nora's assessment. However, I do agree with David B that there are questions to be raised. And again, these accusations about being an OSE agent are pervasive, so I'm a little bit wary. However, they were bringing things up. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's very puzzling. That's very strange. Why would that guy do that? That seems a little strange. It does seem like he has his own partisan agenda, but they didn't particularly care. And that seems to be a major crux, that issues DOA think are important, Nora and Audit LA are like, yeah, I don't think that's important. I really don't care. I'm going to concentrate on something else. And so it just kept going in a big, big circle, where David B kept saying, well, don't you think this is alarming? What about this? What about that? Da 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 da. And Nora's just like, yeah, all right, whatever, but I really don't care about that. Well, I think she's missing the point. The question is whether she thinks it's important is not the issue. Like, Nora seems to have this dilemma of always personalizing things. So unless it's like very impactful on her as a person, she just doesn't care. So she likes Audit LA, has met Audit LA, is very friendly with Audit LA. So that's where her focus is on. And to her, Audit LA put on a good protest. That's what's important. If Rib Guy is acting suspicious in the background, well, that's your problem. I really don't care about that. And David B is like, well, no, but what if he's an OSA agent trying to undermine the protest as a whole? And Nora's like, yeah, I really don't care about that. But then, showing her own logical analytic skills, she turns around and thinks that, well, listen, I think this guy you're hanging out with, he is definitely an OSA agent, right? And to be fair, David B is a little inconsistent, saying, yeah, okay, right, okay, maybe, maybe not. I just want to hear the guy out. And she's like, well, no, I and many other people think he's an OSA agent. You need to get away from that person. And that also went in a big, big circle. And I would say that David B has a better case, frankly. I know that's like, oh, you just hate Nora. No, Nora, all Nora said was basically, me and a lot of people don't like this guy. Okay. Well, good or bad, David B provided reasons and some evidence that Rib Guy is suspicious. Okay. For Nora's part, there just is a consensus. They don't like this guy. Those are two different things. So David B is bringing up reasons and some evidence. Again, it's a little sketchy. I'm going to look further into this with Rib Guy and his behavior. But with the other case, Nora doesn't like this guy. Aaron doesn't like this guy. A lot of people don't like this guy. Okay, no, that doesn't mean anything. It's who cares? It's a popularity contest saying, well, you know, most ex-Scientologists don't like him. Okay? That may be proving that guy's point that there's this very cultish atmosphere with ex-Scientologists. And I have to agree, there is a very cultish atmosphere with a lot of these ex-Scientologists. So you're just verifying his point. So it's just strange that Nora just said, well, we've dealt with this guy for 20 years. Our opinion matters. No, it doesn't. You need to provide something. Provide a receipt. Provide a screenshot. Give us something. She didn't have anything. She just said, I don't like him. Aaron doesn't like him. Doesn't that tell you something? The answer is no. Being unpopular is not equivalent to being guilty of anything. It just means X is unpopular. You didn't say anything. So I think that's Nora's dilemma, is that, and this is something that David B did stress, that she does seem to perceive things very differently than other people. And I'd have to agree. She, Aaron, Jenna, Serge, and again, I'm singling out those people, but there's a lot of them. The ex-Scientology people do just seem mentally, frankly, in another place. So they make this or that an issue, and you're like, there's no way to be not disrespectful. A normal person would be like, yeah, that's not really an issue. So I'm going to do a whole commentary on this with Aaron and Jenna, but they made a big issue that Tony Ortega, reporter, wasn't sufficiently respectful enough to them. And, well, that's an issue. And I think a lot of people would say, yeah, I guess you should try to be more sensitive to ex-cult victims. But strictly speaking, if a journalist is not being polite enough for you, most people would say, who cares? Why is that an issue? How's that an issue? So it just seems that a huge contingent, not all of them, of the ex-Scientologists create issues, which, frankly, most normal people would say, that's not an issue. That's not a real problem. Or that's not a valid argument, right? And listen, a lot of other people come from their own trauma or their own cult experience. It does seem very unique that the ex-Scientologists just seem very mentally and perceptually to be so biased. They create issues which are like, well, I understand where you're coming from, but really most people, even cult victims, would be like, I don't think that's really an issue. It just seems like you're being overly sensitive, or frankly, you're perceiving something that's not really there. And that seems Nora's dilemma. She's just not willing to look beyond her own perceptions. And on it went. But I think Dave B was good faith. He was trying to be there to work through some issues, but Nora's just like, yeah, but what about me? And the answer is, well, it's not always about you. And there we go. But if you're encountering a raging narcissist, then you're going to be able to go only so far. And that's my initial assessment, but I will listen to more. But yeah, it was a little frustrating, but do think David B was there with good faith. But, that's where we are. We're at an impasse here.